Tony D and Little Joan, just off camera, and this is a screenwriter's take on episode 6 of Fallout. I'll be using stills here from the recap. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 14, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. I scared Little Joan in the first take. Okay. So, man, this episode, whew, it is kind of gone off the rails, I think. So, as always, I'll start with the non-spoiler review. So, I mean, this episode had like a couple of amazing scenes, and then scenes like, whoa. So it really balances out kind of to nothing when you get right down to it. The narrative it seems to be coming apart to some extent. On the one hand, they are trying to, I think, encapsulate a lot of things, almost too many things. They really should have started this much more simple. They should have started this entire series just with a vault dweller coming to the surface, exploring around. Slowly we get to know the world. Instead, they are just throwing all kinds of stuff. And again, episode 4, still the best one. This episode, whew. All right. What would I give it? God, I don't even know what to give it. I wouldn't say it's the worst one. Last week was the worst one. I guess I'd give this about a 3. So slightly better than last week. But it's really, the tone shifts are just kind of all over the place. It's kind of like five different people wrote scripts for different characters, and they mashed them all together, and then you get this. You know, Maximus, this episode, I'm not sure, they don't seem to have any kind of central core with his character. He's sort of whatever they need in the moment. Lucy is somewhat consistent, but man, there's a scene in this I was just like, no, that doesn't work at all. Doesn't work at all. Not in Fallout, not for Lucy's character. No. Walter Goggins, of course, is the standout. Second place on that is Matt Berry makes a great appearance in this. And he's just awesome. If it had been a show with starring Walter Goggins and Matt Berry, I'll tell you, it would have been the greatest show of all time. On the one hand, they are trying; they're way too ambitious. On the other hand, they put in details of the game that almost don't matter narratively. And again, like as a game, if this was part of the game, it would totally work. But you could put a bunch of different things in the game, right? They had a thing way deep inside one of the mines where you find this, was it an evil dagger or something? And it gets mildly supernatural at one point. That, for a video game, works. For a TV show, they really needed to simplify this. They really needed to. And this episode did the exact opposite of simplifying. It confounded a whole bunch of narrative. We don't even see what's going on back at the original vault, which was probably a good move in this episode since there's a different vault involved, and that would have gotten very confusing since they all look the same. I mean, that was even a little confusing in the game, quite frankly, when I had to go to the second. You know, I'd go to one vault to another, and then I'd be like, well, wait, which vault am I in? So Chris Parnell plays the Cyclops. There he is. And he's very goofy in this. Very surreal. So it ends on a cliffhanger. And, you know, it just, it's half of it follows Walter Goggins' Gould character and flashbacks. So Walter Goggins is about half the episode, but it cuts between Walter Goggins in the present day and Walter Goggins when he was still human before the war. Then every once in a while we go back to Lucy and Maximus, but then they're in separate locations. Lucy's learning more about Vault 4. Maximus is learning about life in the vault. It's a lot to process. And because of that, there's almost no room for a narrative here. They luxuriate in Maximus, discovering, luxury. While at the same time, important information is sort of being slowly rolled out. And then the big revelation, which I don't want to tell you without spoiling the episode, is, I guess if you binge watched it, you would remember it's a revelation about one of the characters you saw in the first episode. And that revelation to me is, number one, I don't know what it means yet. But number two, I kind of almost don't care because she's not enough of an entity in the series yet to make a difference. It's like the show is telling me rather than showing me in that particular instance. Walter Goggins is, again, great. Mac Berry, great. Lucy, it's okay. But weird tonal shifts. The script writers, again, it feels like 5 people wrote this show. You write these scenes. I'll write the Walter Goggins scenes in the past. Okay, I'll write the Walter Goggins scenes in the present. I'll write Lucy scenes. I'll write Maximus scenes. I'll write a couple other scenes, and then we'll combine the scripts. That's 100% what it feels like. And that doesn't make for a good narrative. It doesn't integrate, in my view. And the biggest problem with all of this is Walter Goggins doesn't really have a connection to these 2 characters yet. He has a connection to Lucy. He tried to sell her into slavery. He kidnapped her. He assaulted her. He cut off her finger. What? If they meet again, aren't they going to kill each other? Wouldn't that make more sense? So they haven't really teamed up yet. Maximus had a fight with Walter Goggins. So if these 3 are supposed to be a team, it hasn't happened yet. And yet we're deep down the rabbit hole in some Fallout lore that isn't even particularly accurate to the game. So the lore is being changed, while at the same time they're relying on the lore to make you know what's going on. And I still barely know what's going on. I think I've pieced together kind of where they're going, but man, if I hadn't played every version of Fallout just about, I'd be completely lost. I would have bailed on this show probably by episode 1. And probably halfway through episode 1. I'd be like, what? What was that? And just as episode 4 got us back on track, and then episode 5 was kind of like a nothing episode, this episode just, episode 5 threw almost nothing, gave us almost nothing. You could have put some of the information from this episode, at least in that episode, maybe explained it a little better. All right. Anyhow, that's the non-spoiler review. It's very confusing. I don't know how you would follow this if you weren't a Fallout fan. I really don't. Okay. So let's get into the spoilers. Spoilers ahoy, as I say. So the episode begins with Maximus and Lucy are in the vault. I think it started with that. It might have started with Walter Goggins. I don't know. I don't remember now. So Walter Goggins, let's start with Walter Goggins. So Walter Goggins in the past, when he was a movie star, is doing a bit for Vault-Tec. He's great. He's so great in it. I mean, those scenes alone are worth it. Once again, he becomes the spokesman for Vault-Tec. He has some reservations about it. His wife is clearly hiding some information, and it's starting to put a strain on their marriage. And Walter Goggins is remembering this. Then he wakes up on the floor of the Super Duper. For some reason, he passed out. I guess it's because of all the drugs he took. And then, out of nowhere, two guys from the government show up, two sheriffs, and just capture him. It's weird. Okay. So, meanwhile, Lucy and Maximus are being treated very nicely in the vault. Two doctors come in, remove the bullet from Maximus's arm, and it turns out it's not a bullet, but a rotten tooth, which, because I played the game, I kind of understand that. Because in the game, you make, I believe they call them pipe guns. They're like basically homemade guns. And sometimes you could use things other than bullets to load them. Although rotten teeth wasn't one of them, I don't think that would work unless you had, I think there was one gun, and they showed it in the episode, that literally shoots anything, but it has to be bigger than a tooth. It has to be, the item that it would fire has to be, I don't know, the size of Joan here, or bigger. So, I'm not even sure that that's a legit thing, or that the writers are just trying to be clever. That woman shot him with a tooth. Like, that happened the last episode. It would have been fine that he was shot with a bullet. You know, I don't remember shooting people with rotten teeth in the game, or taking out my teeth to use them as bullets or anything like that. I'm not sure what this gets us, but okay. Getting past that, they say, okay, you got to stay in the vault for a while because Maximus has to recover, and you also have to stay in the room where we initially put you because we want to make sure you're decontaminated. Okay. So at that moment, I'm expecting a scene in which Maximus and Lucy finally have like an actual conversation. And this is what frustrates me, not just with a show like this, but with a lot of different shows. They just don't have characters talk and ask the most obvious questions, because the most obvious questions are very evident, regardless of the past of the characters. I get it. Lucy's a vault dweller, and Maximus is not, and they come from different worlds, whatever. But still, when you play characters at the height of their intelligence, they will ask very basic questions because they need to know things. You want to know things, and that indicates what the character wants and needs. Okay? So with Maximus, I'm not quite sure where the core of his character is. He seems to be a little all over the map this episode, but they seem to indicate he's in love with Lucy. So the first thing he might ask is how he can get with Lucy, but instead, or at least ask about her, because he seems to be in love with her. Ask her about her family, or, I know nothing about Maximus's family. So Lucy may need to draw that out of him, even though he's not very talkative. But instead, out of nowhere, Lucy just says to him, "Hey, do you want to have sex?" And I'm like, what the F? What the F? You're talking about a game where the whole point of the game is that the vault dwellers and the people who are normal in the game are basically have the sensibilities of 1950s America. Now, they're not really 1950s, but that's the aesthetic. Is the aesthetic of that era somebody that upfront with their sexuality? No way. No effing way. So, huge fail. Huge effing fail from the writers on this one. I guess they were going for laughs. For me, it was like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? I'm not a prude. I make sex jokes. I, I've done stand up. I make dick jokes all day long, so to speak. But you're going to throw that out with Lucy? No. No, 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 no. You put a really bad taste in my mouth by doing that bit. I was like, God. I think I told this story before, but just briefly. We used to do auditions for our comedy show back in college, and we used to try to get people to do scenes, to test their comedy chops a little bit. And so we'd ask them, just improv this scene and pretend like you're returning something to a store. And what would they return 99% of the time? They'd return a used condom, because that's where your brain goes when you're panicking, and you think of something really vulgar because maybe that'll get a quick laugh from the room. It's the kind of comedy you'd expect from college kids who aren't professionals, not guys that are being paid big money to write a show. Guys, if you can't write comedy, don't bother. Because if that's your level of comedy, you suck. You haven't gotten out of college. It's bad. This is part of the problem in Hollywood today. I mean, it's bad enough they're not greenlighting any comedies. Then when they dip in the comedy, they make a joke like that. I'm not offended by it. I'm just annoyed. It's so effing easy, and it wasn't funny. And as a fan of the game, completely out of place. 100% out of place. A raider might say something like that. Hey, you want to F? But not a vault dweller? What are you doing? It would have made more sense for Maximus to say that line. Hey, you want to F? And have Lucy go, whoa, I didn't even know you. Instead, Lucy does it? I'm sorry, did you need to prove her empowerment with her sexuality or something? Please, spare me. It was dumb. It was out of character and did not belong, in my view. But here's where it gets even worse. Maximus's reaction to that. He doesn't know sex. Okay? So you're telling me a guy living in the wasteland, shooting people, doing whatever he had to survive. Yeah, he doesn't know anything about sex. Possible. But it sounded like he was an alien from a foreign planet when he talked about it. And I won't even repeat what he said, because he used the C word for male genitalia, which seemed completely out of place for Fallout. Just completely out of place. It also seemed completely out of place for the show. Again, I've written the F word in the Pineys books. People often ask about the sensibilities of it. And I try not to curse a lot, but once in a while it's appropriate, depending on the situation. The C word, that's like a bit of a bombshell for American audiences. And it comes out of nowhere. I mean, I'm into this thing 6 episodes. I don't, other than the F-bomb, which these days just goes right by you, barely even hear it. But somebody to say that, it was weird, it was odd, it was completely out of place. And it made Maximus look idiotic. Not in terms of his character, because maybe you could say the guy's still a virgin, but it just was like, oh, come on. I remember watching Universal Soldier with Jean-Claude Van Damme back in the 80s, and there's a scene where he doesn't know how to eat. And we all laughed at it and said, oh my God. But that scene was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. And it shows you the level of writing here. They're not pushing the characters to the height of their intelligence. For these two. But contrast that to Walter Goggins' character and Matt Berry. crap, I'm in another commercial. Matt Berry, who have a scene together. I don't know if they have a still of them. I got to get back to this. So I don't have a still of Matt Berry and Walter Goggins, but it takes place in the past, before the war, and in that scene, it's two Hollywood guys, very cynical, who know each other, having an amazing scene about how Hollywood's changing in this weird futuristic America. Futuristic but 50s America. Matt Berry is brilliant. Walter Goggins, brilliant in it. I could have watched the whole show with just those two running around crazy retro future America. It was that good. They're both playing at the height of their intelligence. Awesome. And this is all in flashback because Walter Goggins in the present day is, of course, a ghoul wandering around the waste. But contrast that. Two guys drinking martinis, poolside in LA in this weird future, with two childlike characters that are so ill-defined at this point. You've now driven them off. You've driven their characters off a cliff with this scene. You really have. Brutal. But continuing with the episode, we keep cutting back between Walter Goggins being taken in by the government and him having flashbacks with his wife, slowly beginning to suspect that Vault-Tec is more than it appears to be. At the same time, Lucy's getting that impression too. But we're getting so much information about this weird conspiracy, like, I kind of don't even care. In the game, I sort of cared a little bit, but only so much as I could get to the next thing and shoot some monster and get a cool new gun or ammo. For the narrative, the important things are the characters. Yes, the conspiracy theory and the world's important, but why it's important is more important. In the game, that's not important because I'm in the game having fun shooting stuff. I don't even care about the narrative really. But in a narrative, we need to know the stakes. We need to know. Lucy is after her dad. So any information that doesn't relate to the dad, and we get it way at the end of the episode, and it's now a grand conspiracy involving the vault and stuff that happened 200 years ago. It's too much. It's too much. Doesn't make any sense. And, the revelation isn't shocking. But anyway, moving on. They're wandering around the vault. Maximus is discovering that first it looks like he's going to steal the fusion cord right out of the power room and put it in his armor and take off. He gets caught, and then he gets given a pit boy in an apartment, and now he's living the high life. He's taking hot showers. He's eating caviar. He's loving life. Lucy goes on to explore the cult, which it's a cult of the Fire Woman, and Walter Goggins confronts the guy in the government, and he's a wanted ghoul. Eventually, he overpowers the two sheriffs and kills them, and then he's confronting the guy who's president of the government and is going to bring law and order. I don't know what's going to happen after that in the present day, but the flashback is sort of a nod to the 1950s Hollywood with communist meeting and having their own little sit downs, and it's kind of making the communist sit downs sort of look good. But then at the end, there was a big twist in that, spoilers, the Queen of the Raiders from the first episode, if you remember her, is the lead communist back in the past, before the war. And the cult, as it turns out, is worshiping her as well as the firewoman. And they have her on a flag that's got red colors, and she's looking inspirational, and it looks like commie propaganda. So I guess kudos to the show for making the bad guy a commie. I guess if she is a commie, I don't even know. But it's a bit too much, I think. And I don't know who could follow this. I've had some people say, "Oh no, I'm following it fine." It just seems way too much. This could have been simple. They're adding other elements, like Lucy finds a big bio lab on level 12. That was a weird thing too. They welcome her to the vault and Maximus and say, "Oh, whatever you do, don't go to level 12." And then later in the show, "You're not going to level 12, right?" And then, of course, at the end of the series, or at the end of the episode, she's trying to convince Maximus to leave the vault because now she believes it's a cult, rather than explain to him, "You don't understand. I was just in a room and they're worshiping the firewoman. And oh, by the way, there was tons of nudity in that. People start taking off their vault costumes, and I'm getting boobies all over the place. Not sexy boobies, but a couple sexy boobies maybe. But that was weird. That was extremely weird. I guess that was supposed to be a thing, but it felt a little too adult. Almost a little too adult for Fallout. I get it. Like, you might argue that the violence is R-rated already, but again, it felt kind of out of place in the show. Like, this show, there's words and nudity seem to be inappropriate. And I gotta think, a lot of kids would watch the show because it is a video game, so I'm not sure that was appropriate. But, like, Lucy has a weird reaction. And I say it's weird because earlier in the episode, she just casually says to Maximus, "Hey, you want to have sex? Intercourse." And then she even tries to explain a little bit of what intercourse is because Maximus seems to have no clue. And then she's mimicking the other cultists in this ceremony because she wants to fit in. They start taking off their tops. She doesn't do that. Well, you can't have it both ways. She can't be so casually okay with sex. And oh yeah, you wanna F? And then in another scene when like she's trying to fit in with a bunch of cultists, they all take off their tops, and she goes, "Oh, well, I'm just going to zip mine down. I'm not actually going to take it off." Yet it doesn't make sense, which is another reason you shouldn't have done it. If you weren't going to get the star to go topless in that scene, you probably shouldn't have done it. I'd like to see her topless. That would have been a fun scene. They had a couple of girls that were comparable, but why not her? The actress probably didn't want to do it. Not that I blame her, because that's a big give. These actresses, you start going nude, it devalues your brand. But from a narrative standpoint, doesn't make any sense. If she's willing to F Maximus just because she's bored, and she's willing to F guys at the drop of a hat, it seemingly, then what's the big deal about taking her top off in a, you could have shot her from behind and then not shown it. So, again, this episode's all over the place. So it's a big grand conspiracy about the head raider that kidnapped her dad from the first episode. But she was also in L.A. prior to the war with Walter Goggins. It's all going to tie in somehow. Okay, I guess. And then that's going to tie into Vault Tech, which is evil capitalism. Apparently, they're going down that path too. There's a bit too much going on. This show needed to be a lot more simple. A lot more simple. When you start playing these games, usually you get out of the vault. There might be a little bit of a wind up, but you get out of the vault and you start your little quest. You kill a couple of rad roaches and you do some scrounging, and things start small. I mean, why not start small? Maximus, again, I don't know where the core of his character. 1 minute, he's afraid to have sex with Lucy. Doesn't seem to know what sex is, and it's kind of fronting for her in a ridiculous way that makes zero sense to me. Then he says to Lucy later in another scene, these people are in a cult. She laughs, says, it's stupid. Then later, he's eyeing up the fusion core to steal for his power armor and get the hell out. But the moment they give him a Pip-Boy and an apartment with lots of food, he gets immediately sucked down the rabbit hole, completely switches gears. Now he loves the place. Now he loves the place. Lucy comes in and he's like, oh, you're right. This place is great. I think I had some oysters. You ready to have sex now? He doesn't say that. Uses the C word again. Bizarre. Just bizarre. Completely. Meanwhile, like the most normal scenes, the most interesting scenes are still with Walter Goggins back in pre-war LA. They're the most interesting. The whole Vault-Tec thing is kind of interesting because there is a grounding there that you understand. Yes, it's in the future and whatnot, but the people there are acting normal. The people in the future are acting like idiots. Yes, it's the radioactive waste and the vault dwellers and all that, but they're still cut to the damn chase. You know? Chris Parnell's Cyclops character, he acts like a total idiot in my view. There's Walter Goggins. Yeah, here's Matt Berry. Matt Berry is a freaking genius. He's so good. He does the voice of the robots, and this is him talking about how he got the gig voicing the robot. He's another actor in Hollywood, and he does the thing that Matt Berry does in every role he has, which is he hits on the girls there and like suggests, oh, let's all get into the hot tub and have some fun, and they're like, no thanks, and they leave. Meanwhile, like if only Matt Berry had made it to the future, he could have joined the cult and had an orgy, I guess. They're even drinking blood in the cult scene, which is bizarre and weird. And this is the guy who's Goggins' friend in the past, who invites him to the communist meeting. Let's see, this is all separate. Okay, they put it in separate. This is the guy who's the president, and there's Goggins in the current state. But so yeah, Maximus is kind of all over the place. Ends with him eating popcorn and watching TV. Does he even know what TV is? He didn't know what sex was. Telling me this guy lived in the waste. Does he even know what TV is? Would he even be that fascinated by it? Why wouldn't he just eat all the food? Like, oh my God, you guys got food here? I live in the waste. I'm always hungry. First time I've been full, and it's all snack stuff. It's caviar, popcorn, oysters. Kind of doesn't make sense to me. Weird character arc. Maybe if you had just focused on Lucy and Maximus, you could have made the intrigue in the vault work. It just seems stupid. They get there. Chris Parnell doesn't seem like he's the overseer, but he doesn't seem like he's really running things. Seems like the woman who runs the cult is running things. In the end of the episode, she breaks into the bio lab. She gets caught, Lucy, and has to fight her way out. Doesn't quite make it out and gets caught, and now they're going to do something horrible to her, and I guess Maximus is going to have to save her. Probably to massacre everybody in the vault. Okay, I mean, that would be very Fallout. if Maximus just puts on the power armor and just starts tearing through, everybody tries to kill him, and he just has to kill everybody. I don't know if that makes great entertainment, though. It's great for the video game. What's going on with Goggins, though, is kind of cool, because it's like Wild West, radioactivity, it's like Wild West in the wasteland. And he was an ex-TV cowboy and an ex-cowboy, so it makes sense. We get to learn more about Walter Goggins than anybody else in this episode. He fought in the war. He was worried about his freedom when his wife was setting them up with a space in one of the vaults in case the bombs rained down. But it's obvious that Vault-Tec is lobbying heavily for the war in order to justify their existence and continue to make money, which isn't exactly a Situation that isn't true, by the way, and it's not a bad angle to put in a show. I don't know if you can make that completely pay off though, and really, that kind of thing. I don't know if that was the deal in the game world. Sounds contrary to the game world. Sounds like a little too much. So, the one thing I think this is missing in terms of the game world stuff is the hyper Americanism. You know, there's a little bit in it, not enough by far. And part of the deal is we're in the present day now. And because we're in the present day, in the wasteland, a bunch of that doesn't even matter. Okay? I think the focus should be more on the present day than the stuff that happened to Walter Goggins in the past. But I get why they're going back there. And those scenes are great. I'm not sure if it's paying off in the present day, though. We're just getting a bunch of info about Vault Tech and a conspiracy theory. And again, Walter Goggins isn't friends really with Lucy and is definitely not friends with Maximus. I expect them to fight each other again when they meet. So, what are we doing here, guys? You got 2 more episodes that you're gonna tie this all in? I don't know. I think you took on too much. And I think this episode, you really just... I don't know why you have to have these contrivances, right? Maximus not knowing to have sex is really a contrivance. And it doesn't gain you much. Like, if you just had him like, he's a virgin, okay? Or, you know, he's never really had a girlfriend. Yeah, he's had sex, but he's never really had a girlfriend. I would have brought it to a different level. Okay? You know? And it should have been Maximus hitting on Lucy. Lucy should have been the one like, oh no, you know, I'm a good girl. I got married. The only time I had sex was when I was married. That should have been her response. She did have sex, they implied. Again, another mistake, I think, in the narrative, because it's supposed to be the 1950s. But sure, you could say, well, everybody in the 1950s said they were virgins when they got married, but maybe they weren't, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. But for Lucy to just turn around and say, hey, you want to do it? Like, so out of place. And it's infuriating to me that you would do that. Regardless of if it's a Fallout show or not. Even if it wasn't a Fallout show. If this was a show that just took place in this sort of aesthetic, I'd be annoyed. We're 6 episodes in, and it feels like Maximus is a character that you're reaching for whatever the hell he is. And you're just jumping to the next thing. You're just throwing a bunch of stuff at us. In a lot of ways. It doesn't seem to be much of a plan here. And, what happened to the head? What happened to the squire? You're supposed to be hunting down the squire with the head. He's got to have gone back to the Brotherhood by now. If he's still walking around the wasteland trying to get back to the Brotherhood, that's a bit much. That's a bit much. A lot of this show seems like a distraction. It seems, again, like a video game. You're just going down different rabbit holes. That's not what you need for a narrative. For a TV show, would have been better to start these 3 off. Already a team. Later, we could reveal how they met based on, the various traits and things that they do together, right? So, the Ghoul and Maximus, always kidding each other, and Lucy's there, and she was naive when they first met, and they can make allusions to that, but now they're a well-oiled machine, and you could just start the damn show in the wasteland. Lucy's looking for her dad. The Ghoul is looking for, I don't know, I guess he's also looking for the raider who kidnapped her dad, as it turns out. Big revelation there. Maximus is trying to prove himself for the Brotherhood, but he stole the armor. We could get past all that, start them as a team and have them do stuff every week. They roll into a town and the town's being besieged by some evil mutant, and that our heroes help the town out, and then the consequences of them helping the town, whatever that is. Maybe they end up destroying the town in the process. Maybe they help the town, but it turns out they're hiding an evil secret, and by killing that mutant, it unleashes the town, and now they realize, oh God, these townspeople are evil. We're gonna have to kill them, and then they end up doing that. Something like that, where each week you have a different kind of story, and then you could eventually do some sort of overarching story. You can do different callbacks to Goggins' character in the past that relate to the current day. I'm told that the ghoul serum doesn't exist in the game. I didn't think it did. I don't remember it, but I didn't play a ghoul character. I don't know if there's a way to do that in Fallout. So there's that. They added that for the show. I'm not sure why. That does jibe with the game, though. I could see that being a thing. I'm okay with that, but we need to have an episode like episode 4. Episode 4 worked. Lucy and the ghoul together, and Lucy learned something, and the ghoul learned something too, right? And it has a great send-off where, Lucy still holds on to her principles despite all she went through, get her finger cut off, sold into slavery, etc., etc. She still comes out on the moral high ground on the top, even saving the ghoul's life. And that should have been them. Okay, now they're buddies. Walter Goggins is like, takes the medicine, cures himself, and it says, hey, you know what? I was wrong about you. And then Goggins could change. They would have been a team. And then we could move forward from there. And go on to something else. I don't know why we need this contrivances like Maximus doesn't know what sex is, and oh, this is a cult, and it's obviously some sort of cult thing, and something's going to go wrong. But Lucy doesn't immediately walk out the minute they start drinking blood and tearing off their clothes. It's weird. It's weird that characters just don't say things like normal people do. I get it. Some people can be deceitful, but why would the cultists even allow Lucy to just roll in there? Why would they let her in the cult? Would they not understand that maybe she wouldn't understand the sensibilities? Why would they keep telling her, please don't go to the level 12, and then not secure level 12 in any way? There's absolutely no lock on it. She just gets into an elevator, pushes the button, boom, she's on level 12. And no one's there when she first gets there. So it gives her plenty of time to walk around and see all the horrible experiments they're doing, realize that, oh, this is horrible, and then she's going to leave. Why go through all this deceit if you have no security? If you're going to go through all this deceit, yeah, you never wanted to see level 12. You can't get up there unless you have a lock and key. At least make it hard for her, right? She has to steal a key, and then she goes up there. I get it. There's a lot going on in this episode, but that's exactly my point. If you're going to keep adding all these elements, you need the time to make them make sense. So maybe don't do that. And quite frankly, I don't even understand what the plan of the cultists are. I don't understand the plan. Is the plan to kidnap people and experiment on them? Okay. Then, do that. then make Maximus, pull the tooth out of his arm, and then, the moment they're, cut to a couple days later, they're cured, they're ready to leave, they drug them, they're going to try to do horrible experiments on them, whatever. I just don't understand the thinking of the show. It's like the people writing it aren't thinking it through. They kind of know the show, or they kind of know the game, but at the same time, it seems like they're so desperate to come up with cool ideas and throw them in the episode. They don't think through what those ideas mean. So, we got a lot of stuff here. It was a weird episode. A weird episode. Again, every pre-war episode, awesome. Wanted to see more of that. Every episode, the Goggins scenes are great, even in the present. All the scenes in the vault, I'm like, what the F is happening? So, weird, man. So, first act, I can't even break it down into 3 acts, and that's part of the problem, too. If they were all together, you know, we really have like 6 acts here. The first act of Walter Goggins' arc is flashbacks. The second act, really, it's act 1, 2, and 3 of Walter Goggins in the past is him building up and going to the communist meeting. In the present, it's him being captured and then eventually escaping the government, and discovering that, you know, the woman from 200 years ago is somehow still alive. The 3 acts with Maximus and Lucy is, at first, Lucy loves the vault. Maximus wants to leave. Maximus gets seduced by all the pleasantries. Lucy finds the cult and then finds that they're doing horrible experiments, and then gets captured by the cultist, I guess you would say. So it's a lot. It's a lot to put in an hour. And there was almost nothing in the previous episode. So the balance here is all off, in my view. We got 2 more episodes, so we'll do that. And that's it for me, Tony D. I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna get to the end of this. Thanks to the recap. Is it called The Trap? Is that the name of this? Yeah, it was called The Trap. Thanks to the recap, I'm using your stills. I'll be back at some point tomorrow. I'll probably have the time to do episode 7. I don't know if I'm going to have the time to do episode 8 on Sunday, because now my event was moved from Saturday to Sunday, and I have to do the live stream, and I'll have to take an hour to watch the episode. So maybe I'll do them both tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know how much more of the show I can take. That's it. We'll see you in the next one.